Hello, you're about to meet two very special little boys. Their names are Fletcher and Spencer. Just over a year ago, they suffered horrific burns after being set on fire by their own father, the innocent victims of yet another unspeakable revenge attack. Today, Paul Brian Edward Connolly was jailed for 20 years with a minimum of 15, guilty on 2 counts of attempted murder. Jackie K.I.D.S has this exclusive report.
I look at them every day. I have to see this every day. Their scars might be on the outside, but mine are on the inside.
Alison Lander is a mum who won't be beaten. Her loving bond with sons Fletcher, aged 9, and 5-year-old Spencer is obvious. And it's no wonder, given what they've endured together this past year.
Fletcher has had burns to 23% of his body. Spencer had burns to 37% of his body, and that includes full thickness burns to his shoulders and his neck.
These 2 little boys survived an horrific attack inflicted on them by their own father. They are the innocent victims of Paul Brian Connolly, a man who refused to accept his marriage to Alison was over, and on December 6, 2012, attempted to murder his own sons.
This is a man that I was married to for 13 years, the father of my children, that I thought loved his children. I trusted him to have those boys, and he betrayed that trust. They worshipped the ground that their father walked on. I would often snuggle up to their dad and often tell their dad that they loved him, and he would, you know, reciprocate, say that he loved them too. Often set up the Thomas train tracks on the floor for them so they could play with the trains.
They do seem like everyday dads. They will present ordinarily as if there's nothing wrong. But when the high emotion involved with separation typically happened, then they will flip into this other persona.
Over his 36 years in practice, forensic psychologist Ian Joblin has assessed over a dozen dads who have harmed or killed their own children.
I don't think there's a name for it, but it's certainly and unfortunately seems to be a developing trend in serious crime.
Wicked fathers like Robert Farquharson, who on Father's Day 2005 drowned his 3 sons in a dam. Child slayer Arthur Freeman sentenced to life for throwing his 4-year-old daughter Darcy off the Westgate Bridge.
The children are used as instruments for revenge, and that means that that the father often doesn't take on any remorse. He's not self-deprecating. He can say to the mother of the children, "Look what you made me do," as if it's your fault, not my fault, it's your fault. And so he's offloading his guilt from himself onto her.
We tried to do what we could to try and save the marriage. Yep.
What was that?
We went to marriage counselling, tried to spend more time together. Yep.
And it was irreparable?
From my side of it, yes.
It was just 3 weeks before Christmas, and Alison set off in search of a new home for her and the boys. What she didn't know was that the soon-to-be ex-husband she'd left behind here had already hatched a plot so evil and so twisted, it almost defies comprehension.
It's not easy to think about it. I don't like to think about it, and quite honestly, I struggle to talk about it, yeah.
What do you now know happened that day?
I know that on the Wednesday he picked both children up from school and daycare and went home, and he had been to the supermarket and bought lots of lollies and stuff that all kids like to eat, I guess, and had those in the car and gotten their favourite toys and gave them to them in the car. Both the children were still in the car and set the car on fire.
So it's a miracle they survived.
It's amazing.
How did they survive?
Fletcher tells me the story of getting himself out of the car, and then when I first saw him at the hospital in emergency, he tells me he dropped and rolled. And that was thanks to I think it's the fire brigade coming into the school and teaching them all about fire safety, and this was only a week or so beforehand.
They might even recognise you.
The boys spent months recovering in hospital. Little Spencer had a month in intensive care and 15 operations. He will need further surgeries.
He had burns to his knees, hands, arms, neck, shoulders, face and head. His was so bad that the tips of his fingers on his left hand had to be amputated to the first knuckle. He's also got smaller ears. He's lost a lot of the lobes on his ears.
But he hasn't lost his sense of fun. Spencer, an engaging, funny little boy. His older brother, though, understands exactly what happened that fateful day and knows why his looks are affected.
He has struggled with it. Yeah, he's very self-conscious about it. He has a hat that he wears out in public all the time because he has, he has a bald spot. I know you don't like it. You have to wear it.
Alison devoted to caring for their burns, applying cream and pressure garments, all part of her daily routine.
Well, I know there are a lot of very worthy causes, but I think this one is very worthy, and it certainly touched the hearts of people, knowing that the boys were so young.
Family friend Mark Whittle heading a community effort to support the family into the future.
Well, the boys are going to need support through the ensuing years, right through teenage years to adulthood, and so it'll be great if we can still have money being raised and donated.
While the community rallied, Paul Conley inflicted further pain from behind bars. He pleaded not guilty to attempted murder, claiming the explosion was an accident and stood trial. His not guilty plea meant that a 9-year-old had to testify against his father.
I hated it. Absolutely hate it. It's, a child shouldn't have to go to court. Who would put a child through that?
After a week-long court case, the jury took just 1 hour to find Conley guilty, and today he was sentenced to 20 years jail with a 15-year minimum.
I don't think any sentence would be long enough. He's inflicted a lifetime sentence on them. They're going to grow up and look in the mirror every day and see what he's done. And the good thing is that he's got them too. He got burnt too. He's got them too. I have said, I hope there's mirrors in that prison so that he can see the scars on him and realise that those boys have got them too.
Why do you think he did this?
He was angry. He was angry at me. It had nothing to do with those boys.
Today, at this ordinary house on an ordinary suburban street, there's no evidence of the horror that occurred here. Alison and her boys have moved on. Justice has been served and their future is looking bright.
I've learnt that there are a lot of beautiful, lovely people out there. The future's looking very bright, yes.
Yuck!